Alrighty, greetings and welcome back to another wristwatch video and another wristwatch review. And as you can see by the title, today we are looking at one of the most, if not the most popular brand of wristwatches on Aliexpress, the Saint Martin, or Saint Martin as the French would say, watch brand, and their Saint Martin vintage diver. So before we take a closer look at the watch, let's do a wristwatch check. What am I wearing today? Well, today I'm wearing my Tissot PRS 516 automatic watch. This is actually the first watch I ever got. It was a gift for my 18th birthday. Of course, review of this watch will be coming very soon. But now let's take a closer look at this watch, then come back here, talk about the pros and cons, and overall if I recommend you buying this watch. And now it's time to take a closer look at the packaging as well as the watch itself. So it comes in the standard, or what used to be standard packaging for Saint Martin watches. So it used to come in this black plastic box, which just has the Saint Martin logo on it and nothing else at the sides or the bottom. But now Saint Martin has changed their boxes to something that kind of reminds me of a Lego brick. But if it's better, if it's worse, I'm not sure. I think this is a better type of packaging because it takes less room and makes your watch a bit more secure. So how you open it, you just pull these up, and pull the ones at the front up as well, and you open the box, and in the box you would be greeted with your beautiful new watch. Also, it has this thick foam material inside, which will additionally ensure your watch is well protected during shipping to your address. And that's it with regards to the packaging, and let's take a closer look at the beautiful Saint Martin vintage diver. Now, as always, first we will talk about the dimensions of the watch. So we have a 38mm diameter. However, it is 38mm with the watch case. The bezel of the watch protrudes outside of the watch case, so the bezel diameter is 39mm, meaning that this looks more like a 39mm watch on your wrist than a 38mm one. The lug to lug distance is 45mm, the thickness including the crystal is 13mm, and the lug width is 20mm. The watch case as well as the bracelet is made out of 316L stainless steel, which is again to be expected at this price point for a AliExpress watch. And the finishing is mostly brushed on the case, so you have brushed sides and brushed top of the lugs. However, we also have this beautiful polished chamfered edge, which is done in high polish. So it's a beautiful transition from the brushing to the polishing to, again, the brushing surfaces. Now, what's also interesting is that it actually goes from the most expanded point of the polishing, and it narrows down as it nears the watch bezel, which is a cool little detail. At the 3 o'clock position, we have the crown. It is a signed crown. It is signed with the first logo of Saint Martin that they use. It is the shark logo, which they usually put on their dive watches. And it is a screw down crown, so essentially you unscrew the crown in order to use the hand winding or to set the watch or whatever, and when you finish using the crown, you can just screw it back in to maximize your water resistance. And while we're on the topic, the declared water resistance of this watch is 200 meters. And what does that mean? Well, it means that you are pretty much safe near water. You can go swimming, you can go diving with this watch, no worries at all. You shouldn't go diving to huge depths, but then again, I highly doubt anybody watching this video is going to do that. So you're basically safe when you're close to water if the crown is screwed down properly. Also, we have a watch bezel here because this is a dive watch after all. It is a 120 click unidirectional bezel, with the clicks being very firm, very precise, and they also align with the markers on the dial, which is something Seiko should learn how to do. So let's just hear how the bezel sounds. Yes, as you can hear, it is a beautiful type of click, which apparently has been improved even more in the later versions of the vintage diver. It is also a ceramic bezel, so it's not aluminum, it is ceramic, it's black, and the markers on the bezel are filled in with golden paint. Now, the crystal protecting this watch is in fact a sapphire crystal. It's a raised and slightly domed sapphire crystal, as you can see here. Why is it like that? Well, it's essentially to mimic even more close the old diving watches, which used to have a raised domed acrylic crystal. However, sapphire is much more scratch proof than acrylic, so that is definitely a plus. And how will we prove that it's in fact a sapphire crystal? Well, we will be using our Diamond Select 2 tool. If we get yellow rectangles, it means that this is in fact sapphire crystal. And also there is an affiliate link in the description of this video if you want to purchase this tool or if you want to purchase this watch. Both are affiliate links, which means you will be helping my channel out. I get a small commission, but the price doesn't change for you at all. So let's put it close to the crystal or on the crystal. Do we have our reading? Yes, we do. As we can see, it is in fact a yellow rectangle, which means that this is sapphire crystal. Now there is also another method how you can do this without using this tool. If you're interested in that, I made a video how to check if your watch has sapphire crystal without using any tools. And while we're here, let's take a closer look at the beautiful dial of this watch. So it is a matte black type of dial, which looks kind of gray when the sun hits it in certain angles. Also, we have the classic hour markers, which are classic for a Rolex Submariner. So you have a triangle at the 12 o'clock position, rectangles on the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position, and circular hour markers for all other hours. The minute track is printed and it goes all around the dial of the watch. And the hands are in the style of the classic Mercedes style hands with the lollipop seconds hand. And below the 12 o'clock position, we have the second St. Martin logo, which is in italic. And above the 6 o'clock position, it says 200 meters or 660 feet and the word Submariner. Now, this has been changed in later batches. It says automatic now, but they used to put Submariner on it. Luckily, they removed it due to copyright reasons. So this is one of the first versions of the vintage diver that was ever released. So this is a vintage diver, if you can say it like that. Now, also this watch has, of course, lume on it. The hour markers and the hands of the watch have lume. The lume used is C3 Super Luminova. It is a very good lume, very well applied, and it should last you all throughout the night. Now, as we can see, the seconds hand is going in a sweeping motion, in a smooth sweeping motion around the dial. It's not ticking, tick, tock, tick, tock. That is usually an indication this is in fact a mechanical movement, and the movement powering this watch is the Seiko NH35 movement. The NH35 movement is the export version of the 4R35 movement. It beats at 21,600 beats per hour. It has 24 joules, 41 hours of power reserve when fully wound, and it has hacking and hand winding, so a very reliable movement powering this little watch. Now, unfortunately, it's not a see-through case back. You can't really see the movement. You get a plain solid case back, something that Rolex usually does, which is kind of unfortunate. I wish they put some engraving on the case back, but oh well, I mean, that's not really too much of an issue. I just wish it had something on the case back to make it a bit more interesting. Maybe this shark could have went on the case back instead of the crown. And yeah, that's basically it with regards to the actual watch. Let's take a quick look at the bracelet now. And the bracelet, as I said, is also made out of 316L stainless steel, and it is a full link, solid and link type of bracelet. It is in fact a 5-piece bracelet, a 5-link bracelet, sorry. So these little polished surfaces on the sides are actually their own parts of the bracelet. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-piece or a 5-link bracelet, and they are held by screws. However, the method at which you adjust the bracelet, it's a bit more complicated. You can't just use a regular screw. You have to use the specific tools that St. Martin provides you. Also, we have these faux rivets here, which is even more of an homage to the old style of divers. Some people don't like them. I personally don't mind at all. And the finishing on the links is brushed, except for the 1st and 5th link, which are in high polish. And when we look at the clasp of the watch, it also has a 3rd, more modern looking St. Martin logo. How do you open the clasp? You just click the 2 pushers here and you get this beautiful fully milled clasp, which is very well made. It's very reliable, and also the watch clasp has 4 positions of micro adjust. And how do you close the clasp? You just click it in place, and that's pretty much it. Now, what I also want to show you is how to actually adjust this watch. So first things first, we have to unscrew the crown. When we unscrew the crown, we can use the hand winding function of this movement. So by rotating the crown upwards, you can hand wind the movement. Let's hear how that sounds. So it's fairly quiet. It's not really loud, which is not a bad thing. For example, ETA movements tend to have a more loud type of hand winding. This one is fairly quiet. And when we pull the crown up to the 1st position, you basically don't have anything, because this is an NH35 movement, which has a day complication. So when you rotate the crown downwards, you can feel the clicks. However, you can't really see them, i.e. this has a ghost day position. And when we pull the crown to the 2nd position, the second hand stop, so it is a hacking movement, and then we can set our movement any way we like or set the time the way we need to. And when you finish, we just click it back into place and the second hand continues to tick. And that's pretty much it. We just screw the crown back into position to make sure we still have our water resistance. And the last thing I want to show you is how this watch looks on my wrist. So for reference, I have a 17 centimeter wrist circumference, or 6.34 inches, or 6 3/4, sorry, inches diameter. And this is it on my wrist. In my opinion, I think this looks very, very nicely on my wrist, at least in my opinion. And yes, that's pretty much it with regards to the vintage diver. Now let's go back to the original perspective, talk about the pros and cons, and overall if I recommend you buying this watch. And we're back, so that was the vintage diver close-up. So now we come to the segment of this video where we talk about the pros and cons, and let's start with the pros. The first pro I would say for the vintage diver is definitely its size. I think the diameter, the thickness, the lug to lug distance, everything is just spot on. So even if you have a smaller wrist, this should fit you very nicely. If you have a larger wrist and you don't really care anyway, this will fit you perfectly. So size is definitely a pro. Anybody can wear this watch. The next pro would obviously have to be the sapphire crystal. As you know, if you watched my reviews before, you would know that sapphire crystal is always a positive in my book. And this watch especially, it has a very nice, slightly raised above the bezel, slightly domed sapphire crystal. It has that vintage feel, that vintage appeal to it. And of course, it's a lot more scratch proof than the acrylic crystal you would find on old watches. So sapphire crystal, definitely a pro. The next pro I would have to list would be the movement. Now this watch is powered by the Seiko NH35 movement, which is basically the 4R35 movement. These are reliable movements that can be easily serviced, parts are very easily available, and any semi-competent watchmaker will be able to service or fix your watch. Now my movement in my San Martin is running almost perfectly. It's running +1 second a day, which is amazing, especially considering how old this watch is. But yeah, San Martin usually regulates their movements, so you more often than not get a very high accuracy even with some of the baseline NH35 movements. So NH35 definitely a plus for this watch. Next pro would be the water resistance. Of course, 200 meters of water resistance means that you're basically good to go. If your crown is screwed down, then you can go swimming, diving, you can take a shower, wash your hands with it. You don't care if it starts to rain or anything. So it's just screw the crown in and you're all set. No worries there whatsoever. Next pro is the lume. The C3 Super Luminova on this watch is fairly good. Of course, it doesn't last as long because this is the more patina looking version of C3 lume, which has a shorter lifespan during the night. But in my experience, even when you wake up in the middle of the night, it still glows if, of course, it absorbed enough sunlight. So that's why I have to say the lume is also a positive, also a plus for this watch. Of course, the bracelet and the milled clasp have to be positives. It is just wonderful. Solid links, solid end links, the milled clasp, even the little screws. I personally don't mind them. I think they look cool. I know a lot of people don't like the fake rivets that go on the sides, but for me, I think it's okay. I think it adds to the vintage appeal of this watch. So definitely bracelet is a plus. And of course, the finishing has to be listed as a pro for this watch. The quality of the brushing, the polishing, the beveled edges, it all just fits in so nicely. I think this watch has amazing finishing considering its price point, so that has to be a plus. And finally, the last pro I would say is the variations. Now, what I have with me is the original vintage diver. You can see it's original because it says Submariner on the dial. They changed that to automatic later on. So this is the first version, which I already think is amazing. Now they have a version 2 and a version 3, which is even better than this one here. I think it has better lume. They have applied indices, unlike this one. They just changed some things. They tweaked it a little bit here and there. That's why I have to say variations are a pro. You have so many different versions with different dial colors, with different looking hour markers, with different looking hands. You can choose if you want female or male end links, different logos. You can put your own logo on this watch if you must, or if you want to, sorry. So variations are definitely a pro because you can find a watch that's fit just for you. You're not just limited to this one version I have in my hand today. You can choose so many different looking vintage divers, so that's definitely a pro in my book. And that's all the pros, but of course, as every watch, this one also has some cons to it. Now the cons I list for me personally are not a big deal. So just keep that in mind. I don't think these cons mean that you shouldn't buy the watch, but we should list them anyway. So the first con is that it is an homage watch, because in the end of the day, a lot of people in the wristwatch community still find that homage watches such as this one are basically copies. At least that's how they label them. I personally disagree. However, to try to keep this review at least slightly objective, we will say that this is an homage, and that is a negative. It is an homage to the Rolex 5508 Submariner. Of course, for me, that's not an issue because that watch has not been in production for decades at this point. And even if you find one on eBay, it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg. So yeah, homage is a con, not for me personally, but for somebody in the wristwatch community probably is. Next con, I think it's that this watch that I have has just too many logos. You have 3 different logos on this watch. You have the italic font St. Martin on the dial, you have the shark logo on the crown, and then you have the more modern looking St. Martin logo on the clasp. Of course, they did fix this in the later versions. They made it more consistent, but still, because we are reviewing this watch right here, I have to list it as a con because it's just silly to have 3 different logos on one watch. They should have really chosen one and just stick with it, but okay, whatever, they fixed that later on. Next con would be the hard to adjust bracelet. Now this is a bracelet that is held by screws, but however there is a specific way how you are to adjust the bracelet. You have to use a specific set of tools, so that might be annoying for some people because you can't just use a regular screw you have in your home. You have to have the ones that St. Martin provides you, otherwise you're gonna have a really hard time trying to adjust this bracelet. That's why I think that should be a con. And finally, the last con is the ghost day position, because this is an NH35 movement, it's not an NH38. So there is a ghost day position. Maybe they could have removed this, maybe they could have used an NH38, but again, it's just a minor con. It just has a ghost day position, nothing special. So those are all the cons. Like I said, I personally don't think that these cons mean that you shouldn't buy this watch. In fact, I think this is an amazing watch and amazing value for money, especially if you can buy this used. For example, I bought a used watch, so this is a used watch, this is not me. I didn't buy this brand new, and I paid just $150. So $150 for a watch with a ceramic bezel, a sapphire crystal, a very reliable movement, this level of finishing, this good lume, and this good of a clasp and bracelet. I think I really got myself a good deal right there. But even if you get it brand new, I still think it is very much worth it. It looks beautiful. It has a nice aesthetic to it. St. Martin, you know you're gonna get a quality movement, a quality watch for not too big of a price. I mean, if this watch had the label Seiko on it instead of St. Martin, it would cost, I think, more close to $1,000. So yes, definitely this is a watch to buy if you're interested in a homage watch from Aliexpress. It is no wonder that St. Martin is one of the best brands you can buy on Aliexpress. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you like this review, of course, leave a thumbs up. If you dislike the video, leave a thumbs down and maybe give me some suggestions on how I can improve my content. Subscribe if you want to see more wristwatch or fragrance related videos. And until next time, guys, have a great day and